So we see Arabella stumble out of the Eco Death Bar alone, and we cut. We don't see what happens when she's stumbled out. We go straight into her typing and finishing her draft. So she finishes really fast. She looks at the time. She goes in. She goes to take a shower, kind of brush her teeth, kind of freshen up before her team gets there. Now, we see that Arabella has a really nice gash here on her front forehead, and she doesn't acknowledge it at all. But as her team is kind of going over what she wrote, they tell her that they love the beginning, but the ending doesn't make sense, as it shouldn't, because we know that she wrote it a couple hours ago. But they notice that she's a little out of it. She's a little spacey, and she doesn't really have anything to justify why her story isn't meshing. So they kind of send her home to kind of refresh and let her know that the draft is due soon if she does want to enter the contest. So she goes to what it looks like kind of catch a cab, but she can't really figure out where she is, which way she's going. She's really delusional. And we see things from her point of view. They're kind of moving in space. Things are kind of zooming in and zooming out. It's like she can't concentrate and she can't focus. We see a fan who walks up to talk to her, to take a picture with her, and she helps her get into a cab. But even with her conversation with the fan, we still see that she's not in her right mind. So struggling, she unlocks the door to get into the house to rest. But when she goes to close the door, she reaches to grab the doorknob. She gets a flashback of a man standing over her, and he's pounding against the door. That was really shocking to me as a viewer, from someone who's seen her in Chewing Gum, where she's a bit of a goofy, nerdy character. To get something so harsh in a series, I was not expecting that. I was really shocked, and it got really personal. It's very hard to watch because you're seeing someone who doesn't quite know what happened to them, but in a sense, you do know that she knows that maybe she was violated or maybe something did happen to her, and she's kind of on a journey to figure it out while still kind of ignoring it all at the same time. So we get into episode 2. She's sitting with Terry. She's eating, but she's not really eating. She's discussing, how the draft went and talking about some music. And Terry gets into, how did you get the gash on your forehead? Why's your phone broken? And why don't you remember what happened? Did Simon have coke? What did you guys do last night to where you can't remember anything? And from Kwame's stance all the way to Terry, you kind of get the sense that maybe Simon isn't the best friend. Maybe he kind of though she is grown, get Arabella into some not so healthy activities. So notice when Arabella tries to call Simon after she gets the flashback of the guy in the bathroom, he doesn't answer. And Terry calls. She says, we're calling to talk to you to see what happened. I called from my phone because you didn't answer when she called. And that's already giving you the sense that he does not want to talk to her. Maybe he knows more than what he's letting on. And the episode is called Someone's Lying, so I think that someone is Simon. But they're kind of going through, you were there, right? You were there with me the whole time. And he's kind of reassuring her, yeah, I was there. When we can see that clearly he's lying, and she walked out of that bar alone. She stumbled out of that bar alone, and he was not with her the whole time. We cut to Terry. She's getting ready to go on an audition. She's trying to be an actress, and she's auditioning for a commercial. We see Arabella. She's still just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. We cut back to Simon. He's smoking a cigarette outside, and there's a look of guilt on his face that, you know, maybe he didn't do the best thing for his friend last night. So we get into Terry taking Arabella home to get some rest, and she's kind of explaining to her what she saw. She's explaining the man she saw, what she feels like happened to her, the pounding on the door, and you kind of get the sense that Terry understands that something happened to her friend, but she just doesn't want to say it, so she puts her into bed and goes off into her audition. Arabella lays down, and she kind of gets the flash of her getting money out of an ATM and wakes up. So from what we can see, she has not been asleep since she got off the plane. She's restless. She can't rest because she doesn't know what happened to her. So we get to Terry. She goes into an audition. I believe it's for like black hair, but there are white women at the reins of it. And they give her lines, ask her what is the most exciting thing that she's ever done. And she runs her lines, scoring really well. And then they proceed to ask her if her hair is real. And if it wasn't, could she take it off? And could she take it off right then so they can see it? You don't ask a black woman to take off. You don't ask any woman to take off her wig. And Terry goes, okay, well, yeah, maybe next time I can, you know, show up with my hair already ready. I can't just take it off and reveal. She proceeds to walk off, and then she comes back and she lets the ladies know that the wildest thing that she's ever done was have a threesome. We get into Arabella sitting and kind of going through her head of what happened with her fellow roommate. I will learn his name. But she's kind of been watching these videos to kind of plant the seed in her head that what she is seeing with the guy in the door is kind of a part of her dreams, her imagination, something that she thinks is happening or has happened that never really happened. But it's just not, it's not sticking. So feeling in herself that maybe Simon knows a bit more than he does, she goes to the house. Now, prior to her getting there, he's cooking dinner for his wife, Kat. And I forgot what he served her or what he's cooking, but he says something in the sense of, I love them both and I mixed them and smashed them together. And it kind of reminded me of the Kat and Alyssa situation, like I loved them both, I smashed them separately and smashed them together, but whatever. So once she gets there, she's eating, and we know she didn't really come there to eat. Simon is very off-putting. He's being really shysty with information. I don't know if maybe he was spiked and doesn't remember as much. I feel like he does, but let's try to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's saying stuff, but it sounds like lies. He's saying that he was with her and he got her into, you know, the Uber, but she's like, I don't have any Uber receipts in my phone, so who called the Uber? Who went to the ATM? The ATM is 45 minutes away from my home. We walked 45 minutes. Everything is just not adding up. So she takes the phone and traces his Uber all the way back to Alyssa's house. So she gets there, she's talking to Alyssa. It's very awkward at first because she wants so badly for what happened or what she's seeing not to be her, that she kind of puts it off on Alyssa and says, you know, maybe you weren't in the safest positions last night. Maybe something happened. And Alyssa does inform her that she's been inside all day because she felt like she was spiked, and it kind of confirms that, okay, well, if you were spiked, I was probably spiked too. So she, alludes to, the only common denominator we both have is secretive Simon at this point, and Alyssa gets pissed off at even the thought of her thinking that Simon will do something like that to her, because not only does she know Simon prior to that night, she's had a secret relationship with Simon for 6 months. And the whole situation with Cad and the meetup and the threesome was set up from jump just because she wanted to meet his wife. So at this point, Alyssa is yelling, she's cursing, she's screaming, and Arabella is really tense because she's like, I can't make excuses for what happened. What I'm seeing, it's not you. If it's not you, then maybe it's me. So she finally gets into a cab after Alyssa has cussed her out to the gods, honey. Crazy. She calls Kwame and says, she's going to go down to the precinct and file a report. Still not accepting at this point. She's still, going, maybe if I should, I could, I should, right? Maybe if, complete denial, which I understand is very hard to admit something like that to yourself. So she gets there and she's giving her story and what happened. She's very calm, and she keeps telling the officers, not to call it that, not to call it, harassment, assault in, an R-word situation. Let's not call it that because we don't know what happened. From what I see, I just see some man I don't know, glimpses of him pounding against the door. That could be anything. Let's not say that it's that, because that would make it real. In which the officer begins to stand up, and she says, if you're seeing wide nostrils, they're going to look wide to someone if someone is standing over you, versus when someone is sitting with you face to face and someone's taller than you or standing over you, their nostrils automatically look big. And we kind of see her heart drop in a sense, because it's like, okay, not only did I see that, but I was out with my friend Simon, who just kind of left me there. So she has to come to terms with, not only being harassed, but being kind of abandoned by a friend who's lying about it, because from what he says, he was there by her side the whole time. So once she kind of gets more into accepting the situation, the officer goes, can you see his face? Do you know what he's looking at? And it hits her that he's looking at me. And she starts to cry. Oh, it was a lot, y'all. It was a lot. When she put her head in that shirt and she started crying, I was like, but gladly her friend Kwame, he was there to support her. And she finally accepts, I was assaulted. Something did happen to me, though I don't remember. Something happened to me. But once she get to the part of the precinct to do the run through on, victims of assault, we see a lot of women there. We see a woman there, she's kind of totally bleeding below the waist, and she's just kind of lounging like, yeah, your first time, like this happens all the time. This is very casual. We see her go and, collect her clothes, and we see them start to examine her and take pictures. When we get to see, this whole time we've only seen the gash above, her eyebrow and her forehead. But we start to see, the bruises on her knees and the bruising on her inner thigh. And it gives you clues to, you know, how extent that this was. Like, it kind of made me feel like she of course knew something happened to her the entire time, versus her maybe having flashbacks. But when you wake up and you see the bruising here in your knees and your inner thigh, you have to kind of accept, you know, something happened that I had no control of, and I need to, you know, make a report on it. But you know, once she finishes that, she goes home with Kwame and Terry, and there's a look of guilt on Terry's face, and they kind of get off into a conversation of Terry leaving her in Italy, and kind of some backstory that we don't know anything about. But Terry gets emotional and goes, you know, I didn't leave you. You were just too twisted to remember. I told you I was leaving. But we get a sense of maybe Arabella getting maybe abandoned by her friends a lot, and some drug use that maybe go beyond her sniffing, you know, a little coke with Simon, and her through the first 2 episodes we see clearly that she enjoys smoking weed. But we see a struggle happen that we'll hopefully get more backstory in on episode 3. But that was my review on I May Destroy You. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.